Hi everybody, this is the host, aka Host 1.
And the co-host, aka Host 2 here. Just a few quick words before we jump into the episode.
If you're a new listener, here's how the show works. We typically will spend about 5% of the episode at the beginning and the end talking about a motivational related topic, and then the other 95% of the episode is a ton of comedy in between.
We'd appreciate it if you could please like, subscribe, and share the show with other people. Feel free to leave us a comment wherever you're listening or send an email to facetodaypodcast@gmail.com.
Now, back to the episode. And just to give you guys an intro here, we're back. This is the Face the Day, the FTD podcast, and it's your host 1. We've got
Host 2, good to be here.
It's great to be here with all of you and all of our listeners, wherever you reside, wherever you're, even if you're sleeping right now, we still have it in our minds that you're listening in some aspect in one way or another, and we really appreciate that. And we do have some news for you at the beginning here, and I think I'll jump into it. You can, Host 2 we'll let you know in a second, but we are working in conjunction with another podcast. It's called the Pounding the Table, PTT Media, and right now it's in its early stages, but down the road we might have some more exciting news to you in terms of more of a partnership. And
yeah, thanks, Host 1. So just keep your eyes peeled for the PTT Media Network. That's the Pounding the Table Media Network, a soon-to-be large conglomerate similar to Barstool Sports, but much better, much more insightful. Just keep your eyes peeled.
Yes, and so, well, we're not trying to bore you here with the intro material, even though you haven't heard our voices in a while, because it's been a few months since we put out our last episode. But we're just going to give it to you raw, as we usually do, and we're going to jump into the important topics that you have been wanting to hear for a while now. And the first question is going to be for you, co-host. Co-host 2, my co-host, had a funny look, so we laughed. But
we laughed.
First question is, how the fuck does baking soda just basically do everything?
That's a great question.
And no one ever questions it.
Well,
it's been around for ages, and you put it in the fridge, you put it in the bathroom, you mix it in with things. It can cure every illness, and it's a home remedy. Like, how does it just do everything?
Well,
there's nothing it doesn't do.
It really does. You know, some people actually use baking soda for deodorant, for toothpaste, for shampoo.
That's true too.
I think first thing that comes to mind is you'd have to ask a chemistry teacher.
Yeah. You'd have to ask a scientist.
A scientist, yes.
Do we have any scientist listeners? And if we do, please give us a call at, well, that was a trick, because we don't actually have a direct line yet, but we, in our show notes, we'll put in the contact information. But if you have information on this, please let us know.
Please do.
Do you have anything else to say about baking soda, co-host?
Nope. I think that, if you knew the CE or the type of elements that go into it, Na, Ci, that type of thing, I'm not sure what difference that would make, but all I'm saying is that it's a very basic solution, and it works with everything. Next question.
All right, and the next question is going to jump into like Facebook and social media, and I just have to say, co-host, I can't fucking stand people that have that fake caricature type of profile photo. That it's not their real photo. It's kind of like the caricature type photo of them, where it's like a shadow, and it's like. Do they think they're too good for people, or do they think they're being cool and clever? Like, what's your reasoning around why they have that?
Well, can you go into a little more detail about, are you talking about an avatar or profile picture?
It's not really an avatar. It still looks like them, but it's not an actual real photo of them. It's more of like a drawing of them, or a fake image of them, but it still is them.
Yes.
And it's like they think they're better than people. Right now, sorry listeners, we don't have like actual images for the show yet, which we will get to, but hopefully, I'm hoping you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. So now I know what you're saying. And first thing, again, I think they might think that they're ugly, or they can't find a picture of themselves.
Could be.
That is appealing, so they decide to use a caricature, which is, I totally get it, and it's kind of weird.
Yes. And that leads into our next question about a company that most people are familiar with around the globe called Uber. And we're not talking about the sandwich company Uber sandwiches, and only some people might know about that. But what the fuck is the deal with people that have usually the people that used to work for Uber, former Uber people, their egos are out of control. Massive egos, former Uber bros that think that just because they worked for Uber, they can plaster that everywhere and just tell everyone and put it in their bios and just like, it's the greatest thing in the world. What's your thoughts on that?
Host one. I think, we both know some Uber people, former Uber people, and you're right.
Uber bros.
Uber bros, huge egos. You know what? What do you think it is? I mean, what is it that?
I think it's they think they're better than everyone, and when you work in operations and finance, they think just because they can put together little spreadsheets and graphs, and they think they can just be like, we got drivers here, we got riders there, we're gonna put the algorithms in place. The funny part is most of the people that have the big egos are not actually on the engineering side, and they're not even like coding the algorithms. They're just fucking staring into space, thinking that they're the shit.
Exactly, it's terrible. It's terrible, and it's a product of our times and these tech, huge corporations, and it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. There's nothing cool, in my opinion, working at Uber as working at United Airlines or something. So people have to get over themselves a little bit here.
All right, and now we jump into kind of like the ego part. And what's your opinion on people on LinkedIn reaching out via DM and not even giving you the option to reply? There are a lot of, it's not only recruiters, because recruiters get a bad rap, which they should, but it's also like salespeople and it's other various people. They'll copy paste blast messages to people on LinkedIn, and you can't even reply.
So the reply button is not an option? Is that a thing?
There's literally not an option to reply. You click on a button and it's like, you tell me more, or I'm interested or something. And they send you some bullshit message about like, hey, like I looked at your profile. I'm very interested because of this. And like, you're just really impressed me. And you want to respond something back and you can't. Any thoughts?
You can't. That's, what? We go back and forth off the air here about LinkedIn and the ridiculousness of that platform. And, it's like getting a piece of mail where, like, you immediately throw it out. How is it any different than getting something in the physical mail that you don't want and there's nothing to do with it? Like, why even send it? Why even send it?
It's really frustrating, and that leads to the next question here, co-host. Do horses actually like people sitting and riding on them?
Wow, that is a nice question there.
It's a nice question, but I give horses a lot of credit because they've been around for ages, man. They've been around since the colonial, George Washington days, where they're so old school, and I love that about them. It's so like historic and just like every old movie and every like history book you see the horses and you read and you learn about the horses. They've been a part of everything, and I love that. But do they appreciate is it more so they were born that way and they don't like even know the people are riding on them, or do you think they care?
Well, that's a good question. Another really nice question there. I think first thing is that they horses are very big, very strong. They weigh a lot, so I think that a human isn't too much of a burden for them to ride.
Yeah.
But like you said, being born into a farm, I think a wild horse, like you've heard of like them having to, what's it called, buck breaking? No, just buck breaking.
Bucktown.
Well, that's. Excuse me. Yeah. So I think when you have to break in a horse, that's taking a wild horse and then making it tame and having to someone ride it. I think that's very difficult. But if you bring up a horse, in a farm or on a ranch, then it's, I think, much easier to get them to, put a saddle on and go from there.
That's a great analysis, co-host.
Yes.
And that leads into my next question. Not to jump from the horses. We and on this show on Face the Day podcast, we respect horses greatly. And anyone who's a horse rider out there, we encourage you to get in touch with us because we want to hear from you. And to be honest, I hope to get more into horse riding one day.
Yeah, me too.
Because I feel like it's very freeing, and you're out in the air and the open, the wild, and it's nice.
It's really nice, and I've only rode horses a couple times in my life, but I have played Red Dead Redemption.
How do you feel about your balls when you're on the horse?
Oh, they definitely get a little crushed.
Yes. But that can apply to many things. And you have to secure your balls.
Always secure your balls.
And then that leads into my next question, co-host. What the hell has LinkedIn become? And it's turned into a mess. Where will LinkedIn go into the future? And if you need a second to think, I understand. It's just I had to ask it.
Well, I'm going to ask. I think you should take this question, but I will say that again, off air, we talk about LinkedIn all the time.
Yes.
We could have made a podcast with literally 40 minutes of just LinkedIn content. We might do that one day.
We might do that one day, and we might have more of a content social media type thing around LinkedIn. But man, oh man, I compared to like 5 years ago, LinkedIn has turned for the worse. I mean. It used to just be like you could find people that worked at certain companies and network, and it was great, and that was that, and people just posted their resumes on there. Now it has turned into Facebook number 2.
Facebook number 2, in some ways even more cringy, more weird, more self-flaciating, if that makes sense. That's what it is.
And you have Satya Nadella at the top of Microsoft. A lot of people forget that at the tippy top of LinkedIn is actually Bill Gates, because he is the founder of Microsoft and probably the most powerful person in Microsoft. And guess who owns LinkedIn?
Of course,
Microsoft.
Damn
Bill Gates is sitting there controlling most of what people see and read and hear on LinkedIn, and no one gives it a second of thought.
Wow. We hope you listening to this have just gained a valuable piece of knowledge.
Do you give it much thought?
Never. And other than when we talk about it, but I always forget that.
Bill Gates is the most powerful person behind LinkedIn.
You hate to see it.
Yep, but not many people realize it, because you know why? Because Sally Sue from Mississippi is posting on LinkedIn in a bra
is she American? Is she American?
Sally Sue.
Oh, Sally
not
Sue.
Saudi Sue.
Sally
Sue.
Oh, okay.
And she's saying that, hey, I'm a mom. I breastfeed. I do what I do, and everyone should like women's rights. And look. Just so I want to be very clear, we are respectful and we love everyone, and we appreciate, especially women and women's rights. But we're more so trying to prove a point here. It's like, everyone's trying to get a hashtag in. Everyone's like this and that, like this movement, this right. And what has LinkedIn become?
What has it become?
It's just turned into a mess.
It's a mess.
It used to be for networking.
Yeah, and that's far from the truth these days.
And then co-host, this is gonna, dive into our next topic here, but I have to ask, one second. But yeah, as I was saying, why are the majority of Canadians so annoying? And is it dependent on what part of the country they are from? Do you have any insight into that? As we always say on this show, we have a lot of love for people all around the world and in every walk of life. We're not trying to talk shit on, it's just like, it's not because like you're from there, you're bad. It's not about that, but I have to say, there's a lot of annoying Canadians.
They are, and you know what?
There really are, man.
They're like Americans in so many ways, but they're also different. And sometimes it can be hard to pinpoint, and sometimes it's very easy. But they definitely have their own vibe.
Yeah, and it's everything from like them saying everything instead of saying like every little like question has to or a statement has to end in like
or what you're talking about.
And I feel like there's this. I don't know if all of them mean it, but like when they're they do think they're better than Americans.
They do,
but they don't know why. But it's just because they're not from America, so they have to like be stronger and they have to like stand tough for Canada.
Yes,
but funny thing about Canada is that the country is, from a land perspective, is fucking massive, absolutely massive, way bigger than the U.S. When you include Alaska, it gets a little complicated, but with land size. But Canada's massive, but all of the people and all of the cities are almost touching the U.S. in the South.
And I do believe that if America truly wanted that land, it would be ours. So our founding fathers or whoever started this country way back when, or whenever it actually did start, decided we don't need this land, so we're going to give it to the Canadians.
Yeah.
And one more thing I will say is that reminds me of that song, Blame Canada. Blame Canada. And they said, they're not even a real country. Anyway.
It's just Canada, man. It's so close to the U.S. and it's such a foreign land in a way. And I just don't, I don't understand it. And it's most people I know from Canada, and this happens in the U.S. too. I'm not saying it doesn't happen in the U.S., but it's like you're born and raised in Toronto or you're born and raised in Montreal. You move back there. Or you live your life there.
You do.
It's like branch the fuck out, Canadians. You're all about like we're from Canada. It's so multicultural and just like it's the best place in the world. Then why don't you fucking move somewhere? Why don't you do something else in your life besides staying exactly where you grew up?
It's true. They need to branch out. And
I can't count how many people I know that were born and raised in Canadian cities that never ever left. Might have gone away for college, but they immediately moved back to where they're from.
Yes. Well, do you give more credit to someone who left Canada and came to the U.S. or someone who lived in the U.S. and then moved to Canada?
I don't know. That's actually a very interesting question. I'm not really sure like it matters. I guess I give more credit for like maybe to the Canadian that moved to the U.S. because like as we started off this question, it was more so like Canadians they're so self-absorbed with Canada. So if they're actually coming to the U.S. and spending time living here. Like good, that's pretty cool.
It's cool.
And,
it's cool.
Yeah.
But then they come to America and they think they have all the answers, and yet they never truly leave their allegiance.
Like, come to Canada. It's crystal clean here. We have all these lakes and these woods, and we have all these multicultural areas, and it's just like. Then go back to Canada. We also have that in America too. It's like we're not forcing you to stay here. And
yes, there are lots of woods in America.
You wanna let's move to Toronto, which is like 40 miles from the U.S., but it's apparently in this far out foreign land. It's basically just a suburb of the U.S. But everyone from Canada is like, no, we're in this completely different country, and we're just it's like, but no, you're basically touching the U.S.
It's true.
Wake the fuck up.
Wake the fuck up, and you know what? Like we said, there's woods in the U.S. and where there's a woods, there's a way.
And Montreal is also like 50 miles from the U.S. The one city that is actually pretty big in Canada that is not as close is like Calgary, which they have a hockey team up there. Great,
yes.
Like you're so
Calgary
cool.
And Edmonton, maybe.
Right.
And Winnipeg.
Edmonton, Calgary. Yes, Edmonton and Calgary. Exactly.
Yes,
Winnipeg is actually pretty close to the States.
But
it's also like negative 20 degrees there every single day of the year.
every single
even in
day.
the summer.
I've heard this. I've heard this.
And then we're going to go into our next question here. So what's your opinion when you're watching fight videos online? Like people are fighting, and there's always got to be some girls screaming at the top of her lungs trying to break it up and getting in the way of everything.
Always getting in the way.
It never fails, ever. Like always a girl getting in the way.
Yep.
Yes.
And sometimes she gets knocked over and then she goes down, or sometimes she's just like, hey, or just screaming. I think it's a primal response, a primal scream.
Yeah.
They have to get in the way. It's very.
Is it a motherly instinct?
It could be, but there's no excuse
But
for
a lot
it.
of them aren't mothers.
They're not mothers. They should back down and run away. These women. I mean, and again, we love women on the show. We love all people from all walks of life.
Yeah.
But when a fight breaks out between several men, or even just two men, the best thing for anyone to do in that situation is to back and step away, step down. I
agree. And the funniest part is that a lot of these videos you watch, there is some really annoying girls screaming, trying to break it up, or just back off. And then they sometimes get punched.
They do, yeah. They get hit.
Or they get hit. And obviously men shouldn't be hitting women, but if you're gonna put yourself voluntarily in the middle of something that you shouldn't be putting yourself into, I think it's open game. If you get hit, you shouldn't complain.
Yep, open season.
No one told you to jump into the middle of it.
Yeah, if you think you can break up a fight between two guys who are dead set on going at it, it will be a long time before you stop them.
It's crazy, and it's just crazy how it constantly happens over and over in videos that at least I see. And we'll move on because
it's a good point though. It's a good point, and women need to be more self-aware, and everyone needs to be more self-aware, especially in a street fight.
Now, co-host, do you use Zoom and Google Meets a lot when you're in your day-to-day?
I do, unfortunately, I do.
How funny is it when what's your not really funny, but like how often does it happen that you're exiting a meeting, a Zoom or a Google Meets meeting, and right when you hit that like leave meeting or X button, someone says something and it's like
yep. All the time, every time,
every single time. I can't, even if it's just like bye or like see you later. Like there's never a time when I exit a meeting and it's just silence. It's always like you're clicking on it as someone is saying something like bye.
Yes, bye. And then someone goes, or you say something that's kind of like, oh, I wish I hadn't have said that. And then everyone leaves the meeting and you're the last one in the room.
Yes.
That has happened to me a couple of times where I'm like, oh, the fuck.
It's just like if you're not in it on the day to day, you might be a little confused what we're talking about. But it's just something that it's like every single fucking time I leave a meeting, a video meeting, it's just like as I hit that button, someone's like ah, and then you can't go back in because it's too awkward. So it's just always
everyone's
something.
gone. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
This is gonna tie into our next question here, having to do with India.
Oh,
you know why? Because of Bollywood.
Bollywood. Oh, go on.
Do you like Bollywood?
I do.
You do.
I actually don't know. I have not seen a lot of Bollywood films.
Now, my question around Bollywood is why does everyone do that same dance? That like we again apologize for not having video or like content on the show at the moment. We will in the future, but everyone in Bollywood is just like
Yep. It's it's like at the end of Slumdog Millionaire.
Yeah, every single and it's crazy how big of a country it is with how many different people, and apparently it has all these different languages and so many different varieties of cultures and people, but there is no variety when it comes to Bollywood.
You know what? They just
And if you're listening to this and you're a fan of Bollywood and you think we're wrong, we encourage you to reach out and tell us. Every single Bollywood video I've seen though is the exact same thing, and it has a group of Indians that look very similar to one another. We're not saying they all look alike, but we're kind of saying that. And
kinda, yes.
and they all do the same dance, and it's just like and then like it's like every single guy has like perfect like beautiful wavy hair, and every girl has their little like just like outfits on, and it's like
you know what? It's a great point.
Yeah.
And now, I almost want to say that they're mimicking Western type dancing, but it's almost like they're not because they're still doing their own dance.
Right.
So where do they get it from, I guess? Where is the inspiration for that type of movement?
I don't fully understand it because it's like there should be more variety, and it just seems like everything's the same, and that's really the question I'm asking.
It is the same.
And then we have we discuss a lot of things on here, and it honestly, co-host, it can be a little confusing remembering what we've discussed, what we haven't, and where we're at with everything. But to be honest, that's not important, and it doesn't matter because we dive into the important topics on this show, and our listeners appreciate that. And my next question has to do with when you have a gift card given to you or you purchase a gift card. What is the stuff that you rub off on the back, and how annoying is that little scratchy dirt stuff that you have to scratch off? Any thoughts on that?
And what is that stuff made out of?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you, my co-host.
I don't know. The gift card question is complex. I don't know.
And we always rub this stuff off, but we don't know what it is, and it's confusing because it's like it might touch back to our scientist question. If we have any scientists out there that know, please reach out.
Yeah, what is that amalgamation?
We need to know this. This is important stuff.
And also on the gift cards, you also don't need to always rub that off. You can use the gift card and leave that on, I feel like, unless you want to use it online.
It always asks for your code, and you need to rub it off.
I guess if you go to a store, then maybe not. Yeah. But anything online, yes.
It's just kind of a cruel way. And I was actually reading an article the other day that apparently there is like I think it is honestly over like $50 billion or something, but like the amount of money that exists of unused credits and gift cards is astronomical out there.
I've heard this.
And these companies make so much money because they sell gift cards to people that don't get used. So they obviously earn the profits off of that.
They do. It's an untapped market, and maybe if you want to run a business out there, listener, this is your chance.
This is your chance, and now we have to dive into the important question of the night. We dive into restaurants. And it doesn't have to do with gift cards, but gift cards made me think of restaurants somehow. And why do waiters and waitresses take away the menus so quickly? You're sitting there, you order something, and instantly they'll take it away from you. And rarely, I think this does, I'm not saying this happens every time, because like 10% of the time, the waiters and waitresses will be like, like, do you want to keep one of these menus? And I appreciate that. I'm always like, yes, because we might order more. But I can't count to you how many times I've been somewhere and they just take it away.
They just take it away.
And you have to track them down. You have to, you know.
And it's one thing if they take away the menus and then forget to give you silverware or plates for the appetizers. Like, what?
And just to retract a little bit, this question might... This has changed a bit since the COVID days because most of the menus now are actually on our phones.
The phones.
So yeah, I take this back a bit because this used to be a bigger problem.
Yes.
But there still are a lot of restaurants that don't have the the online menus
Yeah, I mean, do you think maybe some of these restaurants need to give the menus to the new customers, or do they just want to clear the table?
I just think it's crazy how many they're literally going to make more money.
Yes.
Based off tip by the amount of stuff we order. But they're so quick to take away the menus.
They are. They just
I don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't. They just want to yank them off.
But going back to the topic of phone menus and QR codes, I can't fucking stand when you walk into a restaurant that only has QR code menus. It just seems that everyone's looking at their phone. It makes things it's just not a good system. I'm so sick of it. Every restaurants steal they can tell when you're there. It steals people's data. It's just, oh man, we have to move on from that somehow.
Yeah, we have to be better. We have to move on.
It's just tiring.
I'll always take a paper menu over a QR code.
You love a paper menu when you get one.
You love a paper menu.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then I have to ask, but because this is relating more to COVID and masks. We were just talking about COVID, but with masks, it's something I actually thought about the other day is that when you're passing by someone and you both have masks on, or just one of you has a mask on, it removes the option to give a smirk. You can't. So like a lot of time when you're passing by someone, you're obviously not going to like wave and say hi and talk to like people you don't know. But there is so much in, a lot of times you don't even realize it, but people give smirks to one another, or they're kind of acknowledging you. They're like, yes. Again, we apologize for not having video content yet, but like I'm giving a little smirk where it's like, I think about myself passing by someone where it's like, I'm obviously not going to say hi to them, but I give them a little like a smile. When you have masks on, you can't do that. Masks are such a problem that we've dove into in recent episodes. We're not going to dive into that right now because like it's just crazy what they've become. But I think that they cause so much harm on a social level. That people do not take into consideration.
They don't. And host one, I think out of all the points that you made tonight, that is by far the best one.
Thank you.
Because not only is it a smirk or even a small smile, but the human face is so complex. Again, there's so many subtle nuances with facial expressions. And that was kind of the thing about kids having to wear masks in school, is that you learn as a kid how to read people's faces. And when half of your face, if you can only see someone's eyes, you will not be able to read their expressions, and it can really cause a delay. If that's at a young age, you're trying to learn that skill.
And it makes people very standoffish and appear that they don't want to, connect to one another.
Absolutely.
And I hate to, we don't want to say bad things about different types of people and races, but from my understanding, a lot of the Asian cultures do wear masks, and this has been a part of their society for a long time. Mm-hmm. And not to say anything bad about them, but from my Asians are not the most friendly up front to people, where it's like they're going to go out of their way to just small talk and strike up a conversation with strangers. It's very like, I don't know you, I'm going to walk past you. And I say that from perspective of, I've lived in Asia, so I have firsthand perspective living in those countries, and I've been around lots of Asians many years for various reasons, but that's just the vibe I get from them, where it's like, and I think masks actually have, maybe they don't even realize it, but they have something to do with that.
They do. It's kind of, and they're much more tame and kind of docile people, and that's fine. But that's not really the way that Americans are, and long-term mask wearing will probably have that effect on anybody.
And it is. We're getting to a point right now, and it's kind of interesting compared to when we started this podcast, co-host. We were in actually the kind of more the thick of the COVID days, and it'll be interesting for our listeners to kind of go back to our vibe and our perspective and like how we structured our conversations around COVID and masks compared to now.
Yes.
And we're going to do the same. We're going to listen back too. So we hope our listeners do that, and we hope you realize that.
Yeah. And we hope that you see the evolution of this show, and we hope we bring you insight of some pretty interesting questions that you might not find anywhere else.
Yes. And then, we've talked about a lot of things on here, and we jump around from topic to topic. But I do want to ask on the restaurants topic, as we were just talking about restaurants. Do you feel that toothpicks are dangerous as fuck as they're hanging out of someone's mouth?
Absolutely.
And why don't more people think about that?
Dangerous for the person that has them in the mouth, or for other people?
I find it very interesting, and the concept of toothpicks have kind of waned off over the years, where they're not as popular anymore. But I think they were very popular in the olden days, where like you went to a restaurant, you put a toothpick in your mouth as you were leaving, and why didn't don't they have to cause more accidents or like poke more people or something?
Or the person swallows it and pokes themselves?
It's just something I've thought of, that it's such a common part of society that not many people give much consideration. But it's like these toothpicks are pointy and they hang out of people's mouth, and
they could be very
most
dangerous.
of the time you put them in, you're already drunk when you put them in your mouth, and it's like you got people kissing each other, and it's like, why don't more people just get their eyes poked or something?
Yeah, they might get poked, crazy. or little flecks of wood getting everywhere. Great point.
And then, why do Africans love carrying things on their head, co-host?
Oh, well, that's
I have never been to Africa, and I yearn to go there one day. I yearn for it, co-host.
You yearn to the African continent.
And not many people use the term yearn anymore, but I love it.
Yes,
and I will always use the term yearn.
I would love to.
Because I want to go to Africa. I want to travel around the different countries, but I find it very interesting how many of them carry things on their head.
You know what? Again, what do you think that is? Maybe they're just good at balancing things.
I don't know, because they could just carry in their hands, but to be honest, I don't know. And if there's any native Africans out there listening to this, we hope you dial in and you let us know, because we would love to hear from you.
We'd love to hear. We'd love to know.
And then, so that's an interesting question. And then, what's your opinion on flex PTO and unlimited time off that these companies offer these days? Because it's a major perk that companies like to flaunt. That it's like, we're woke. We have unlimited PTO, flex PTO. Any thoughts on that? Because I do.
Well,
I
yes.
have some thoughts.
I know you have some thoughts, and I'm going to let you share the article and kind of the statistics about that. I will say one thing, though.
Yeah.
People generally, I was reading another statistic, could be true, that the work-life satisfaction or work-life balance, or just the fact that you like their job, 70% of people say it all depends on their boss, actually. So if you have a good boss, then you'll like you'll be able to tolerate your job.
But what happens if your boss gets fired, moves to a new position in the company, or, leaves?
It's a great question. And how does that affect your willingness to take the PTO?
Right.
To go to your question. Well, what do you know about it? The
flex? I find flex PTO and unlimited time off to be very complicated. I really do. And I think I get what companies are trying to do with it, but I find it to be very complicated, because it's almost like the way that quotas and different metrics are structured. You really have to you have to be there and you have to hit them. So if you're taking all this time off, it's gonna take away from that. So you're obviously not going to be able. It's easy to hit your numbers, but that's easy for people to understand. The issue, more so, I have is that it's very passive aggressive, and it's very when you take time off, and it's not only your boss. Yes, you have to submit your approval to the boss who approves it. That's fine. If you have a cool boss, that's great. They're probably not going to question you. But what happens to the manager of your boss, or the team, the department head or the CEO? They're going to see your time off requests too. And if you take a lot of PTO, even though it's allowed, you can take unlimited PTO, people are going to notice, and they're going to judge. Whether you like to think that or not, people are going to judge you. Even though it's in the company policy, take as much PTO as you want. Take as much time off as you want. If you're taking off more time than other people, you're going to be judged.
Well, yes.
Which is fucking bullshit.
It's a bullshit. And
because
other people,
why have that in your policy?
Yes. And then other people will be jealous, saying, well, maybe I should take it. And then it could have a trickle-down effect, where then they want to take more time off. Then everybody's taking vacation.
I personally don't think it matters about people, caring about other. I think it simply comes down to you literally. So if you're going to have the flex PTO policy or the unlimited PTO policy, I honestly think you should be able to take off every single day if you want to. Because that's literally the policy, that you don't have to work if you don't want to. All right. Wow. Yes, if you're not hitting your goals and your numbers, you should probably be fired. But it's to the point, I think, where all these companies offer it, and I think people actually work more because of it, because they like, it's like they're scared to put in that PTO time in a way, because it's like it's so easy to use that they don't even think they're like, it's too easy to use, so I'm not going to take it.
Exactly, and that's what
like
and host one, you've said that to me before, that there's kind of this like guilt. Wasn't there some study that you cited to me?
I think it's the most passive aggressive concept that exists right now.
Yes, and the companies that enact that unlimited PTO actually think that you'll take less than 2 weeks per year, which is what normally it would be.
And you would think when like originally when this structure came out, I think a lot of people saw that, they're like, oh, like this is awesome, like yes, I'm going to take time off. But I think more so now, people, before they put in that submission for the PTO, there's like that thought that goes on in their mind that it's like, I'm going to be judged for this. And it's like, whenever my manager or the people in the organization see this, they're going to be like, oh, like, he's taking off more PTO, and it's like, okay, yes, we have that in our policy, but like, like, is he serious about this job?
Is he serious?
Right.
Yes.
And that is the problem, that you're getting judged. It's very passive aggressive, and it would be one thing if these CEOs and these department heads, every single like all hands meeting, they were like, oh, by the way, all of our team, just to remember, we have unlimited PTO, we have flex PTO. If you're not taking it, you should take it. This is in our company policy. Does anyone ever say that? Ever?
No, nope. Never.
It is the most passive, aggressive BS ever.
It is.
Because no one fucking mentions it.
I would almost prefer just to have 2 weeks. That way you've used your 2 weeks, or 3 weeks during the year.
It's just funny because everyone offers it, but no one mentions it after you start. Ever. Ever.
What? So one last thing. We talked about LinkedIn a lot, and we might turn this into a LinkedIn podcast one day on the PTT Media Network. But
we're going to have content on LinkedIn.
We're going to have content on LinkedIn. But imagine somebody trying to see how long they could take every day off on unlimited PTO, seeing how many months they could get before the company said something.
Right.
And then make a post about it on LinkedIn.
You got to love companies that offer this shit, because it's so clowning, like how they retract. The second you actually start to use it, you're judged, and it's like, oh, he took off again.
Imagine someone trying to make a motivational post on LinkedIn saying, hey guys, I just completed my 3rd month off of PTO,
right,
and I took care of it my whole life or something.
And I think funny. we're gonna wrap up this episode, and we're gonna ask a there's a lot of questions we have to ask here, but maybe we shouldn't. I have a few other questions I actually want to ask you, co-host. And we're getting on, so we're at 37-minute mark now. But
I think we could squeeze in one more.
I have to ask you, because my co-host here, he's a dater. He's in the dating game, and he's used to the dating apps, and he's in the thick of it. And I have to ask him, what's your opinion on unattractive girls on dating apps that say things like, don't message me unless you're over 6 feet tall, have a good job, work out at least 5 times a week.
Yes.
And
it's ridiculous.
Any thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, listen.
Have girls lost their minds on these dating apps?
Oh, absolutely.
Have they gone mad? And is there too many thirsty dudes out there giving them attention?
There are. I hate to say it, but there's two. That's part of the problem. It's both. It's everybody's fault. It's the girl's fault. It's the guy's fault. Too much thirst. Too much entitlement. I will say that it's fine to have your preferences, but keep your preferences grounded in reality.
Yes. And it's just a damn shame, because in my opinion, there's so many bad dudes out there that are ruining it for the good dudes. And I tell this to you all the time, co-host. It's just like,
yep, the good ones.
And it ruins it, because it's like the girls have their guards up because of these bad dudes. And not every guy is like that. There are good guys out there that are really trying to like meet good girls and go and see where things go. And there's just too many thirsty. It's really not the thirsty aspect, because the thirsty implies that it's like, a guy can't meet someone and they might not have the most game. That's fine. It's worse. The more so, it's just like the awful dudes, the guys that are like playing just too many games, or they're like, they think they're hot shit, and they're just like, they have like 50 different girls, and they're it's just, there's not a lot of good guys out there. And I have very firsthand knowledge of this, because I've talked to many girls about this, and it's very true.
It is.
And it's what I hear.
It is. And I think both of us, my co-host one, not so much anymore, but me now. But we both have had our experiences on these apps. We know the pitfalls. We know the pros and cons.
Yes.
And there are good dudes out there, but they're far and few between, and there are other people that kind of ruin it for the rest of us. And it's really too bad. It's such a shame.
It is. And it really is a shame. And I think it's just, talking about the dating and LinkedIn and it's just like, I have to comment on the way that people conversate with one another, because I watch a lot of interviews and I read a lot of people just like, read a lot of interviews too. It's not just listening or watching. I read a lot of like interviews, and I get very frustrated because not every single question needs to be responded with, "That's a good question." What's your thought on that? I can't count how many times I have been watching or listening to an interview or reading an interview and someone responds with, "That's a good question."
Well, because I've said that a couple times during this podcast.
It's kind of like, people say it without realizing it.
Well, are you mad at me now for saying
you've been asked a question, so just please answer it. You don't need to say it's a good question.
Okay, then I will.
Not you, but you meaning like you as
I think I've only said it
plural.
Yes, and I think I've only said it 2 or 3 times during this podcast.
Yes.
So, and I truly think that the 3 times that I said it were all worth mentioning. That, but agreed. Just answer the question.
Yes, and then when people respond with their question, they respond with an answer. They often will say, "Does that make sense?"
And I do that as well.
You do that,
but that's different. I think that's actually being a good communicator, because then you're letting the person. If the person doesn't understand, they'll feel more comfortable saying, "Can you repeat or rephrase the question?" But if you're checking in, I don't think it's the worst thing to say. I don't think it's necessarily to make. It shows that you're empathetic and compassionate, and you care. That you care that they're understanding you. Maybe not though.
Interesting take, co-host. I love it. My co-host is waking up to the world. And
slowly but surely.
All right, I have to ask you, co-host, because I know we've talked about this in the past, but what's your opinion on people in the workplace and people in the business culture overusing the word team?
Team.
I have to hear from you.
Team.
Yes, I have to hear from you on this.
Well, team. That's a good. I just did it.
It's terrible because even when I'm doing email outreach, I say like, it'd be great if you and your team, or just to hear from you and your team. But I always feel cringe when I say it. I feel a little cringe.
It's very formal. Like, hey team, just like saying hey folks. I don't like hey folks any more than hey team. But then you say hey guys, and there's people have an issue with saying hey guys because you're gendering.
Right. You can't say guys because it's not woke enough. But you can't say girls because it's not woke enough.
True. So you say folks, but
you can't speak is the issue.
Yeah, you literally cannot speak.
You literally cannot say anything. So people resort to using the same terms over and over. I think is really the issue, right?
Hi all. Even that sounds bad.
Yeah, you can't say y'all because it sounds like you're in the South. You can't say all because it doesn't make sense. I think that it might just the answer just you can't say anything.
Yeah, just don't say. Yeah, just don't type.
You can't speak. But then people will give you shit because it's like like why isn't he saying anything?
Yeah.
But then the second you say something, they'll critique you for it.
Or true. Or so you just go right into your whatever you want to say rather than saying.
You pretty much just can't say anything.
Yeah, just don't say it.
There's no point in speaking these days. Wow. Because you're going to get critique for it. But the second if you don't say anything, you're going to get critique for it. There's I think all humans should just lie with their faces into the sand or something.
Yeah.
And just like imagine your couch. Just put your face in the couch.
Yeah, put your face in the
and then at least people will see that you can't speak. So
you'll just be muffled. Yeah. Just be muffled.
Or you remove your mouth from your face because then they can't give you shit for saying the wrong thing and not speaking because they'll be like this person can't speak.
Yeah. What if you get really creative and say hey players or hey
teammates, hey champions,
or hey name of the company,
hey warriors,
hey warrior, hey warriors,
and then they're like the Golden State Warriors will they'll sue you for $1 million. The founder, the owners of the Warriors are worth
Honestly,
they're worth over $1 billion, but they need more money.
They need more.
They
Billionaires
tech,
need.
Yep, the tech entrepreneurs of the owners of the Warriors. They just need more money.
They need more money.
They don't have enough.
Let's make the billionaires. Let's give the billionaires more.
Steph Curry's worth $300 million, and he's not even the owner of the Warriors, but he needs more money. He needs more because he doesn't have enough.
He needs. And you know, Bill Gates has to scoop up all the real estate and farmland. Give them more money.
Yep. These people that are billionaires, they don't have enough, and they need more.
Yeah, they need more.
They have to buy that 50th home.
Yeah,
they have to get it.
50 homes in all 50 states.
That 20th yacht. They need that.
They need that yacht until it sinks, and then they buy another one.
But they're the most relatable person. They're so relatable to the average human out there.
I would like to see a politician run on a campaign of pure sarcasm and irony by getting up there and saying, you know what, my opponent needs this and needs more money and donate to them. They need more billions.
The billionaire politician is deeply relatable to the average human out there. Don't worry. Nancy Pelosi. Ooh,
Nancy.
She is. Hey. She knows the thick and thin of what every American's going through out there. Trump knows exactly what every American's going through out there. Yeah. Don't worry.
Yeah.
He's
on both sides.
Everyone is deeply relatable. They know the struggles of that American family out there.
Trump and his golden palace and his golden tower.
Trump and Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. All these people are just. Man, can they relate?
They can just relate. They're just like the rest of us.
Yep. They go home after hard days of work, and they go to their little, their white picket fence home, and they just, they sit down with their family in their $500,000 home, and they talk about their finances and how they're going to make things work. They know.
They know.
Yep.
We should all listen to them all the time.
Oh yeah, and they're making decisions for everyone, but. Don't worry, co-host. They have the best interests in mind of everyone.
Yes, they do. They have everyone. Our best interests. They care about regular Americans.
They care and they know. They know what it's like.
Yeah, they know.
It's just it's great to see our politicians that that really know what it's like to go really through this.
Yeah, such great folks.
Yeah, we have great folks out there, and it's I hear these people talk and I'm like, man, they're just like me and my family.
Just like me, yeah. I'm gonna listen to all their advice.
Yep, and it's great to see. And then we have, we talk about a lot of random things on here, and we have to. I personally, co-host, have to end with this because it's a question that's been on my mind for a while, and I don't know why. And if we have any older, like very older listeners on here that listen to the Face Today podcast, we gladly encourage you to get out to us. But what the fuck is up with so many people back in the day having names with 2 letters in their first names? Like, for example, M.A. Shaw, C.B. Jones. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Wow.
I just have to ask you, co-host, because it's something that not many people, I haven't seen much discussion about it out there. And it's not that important. I'm not saying this is like something that's like needs to be addressed, but it's more so like, what is the reason around that?
What is the reason? And you know what? As millennials, I don't know anybody that does that. But I know, obviously, historical figures.
This was big time back in the day.
Big time.
A lot of people, like, my grandparents and, like, their associates, like, everyone had the name, like CB something, or, CB. Like, PB, PB Lafayette.
PB Lafayette, or, right. Yes. Or IP from The Simpsons, IP Freely. But
when did this trend go away?
I think it's a cultural. Should we bring it back? You know what? I don't know. It was a good trend. It's a cool thing to have.
Should we bring it back? Is the question. And how can we bring it back? Because I fucking love it.
I mean, you still see a couple like JD. I know you know a couple of guys named JD, but that's different than like the CB.
Yeah, it's just different. It's not like we're not like it's not like TJ. It's not JJ Watt, TJ Watt.
Exactly, it's different.
It's different because like. It just is.
It is. But what you're saying is. It's almost like a middle, like TJ and JJ Watt. That's their first name. But like CB something would be like their first and middle name. It's a different vibe. I agree, co-host.
Yes, and we have to find the answer. And like we were saying, if we have any older listeners that know why, even younger listeners, please let us know. And we're gonna end on this topic. Because it's getting kind of long here, and we're one of our mottos or like theme, one of our like
things we stand by is we don't want to make these too long, and we don't want to bore you. So not that we think we're boring you, but from my own perspective, if I see an episode is over an hour long, I'm probably not going to listen to it. So we want to be careful not to make it too long. We deeply hope that you share this with other people, because that's how we're going to get more listeners. That's how we're going to get better content. That's how we're going to get everything from more video content to actually sharing more facts about everything to giving you more insight. We really hope that you spread the word a bit.
Yes, please spread the word. We hope you enjoyed this show. We hope we brought you some insight, and we hope you help think about things that you normally don't think about. Please keep an eye out for us on the PTT Media Network in the future.
Yeah. Shout out to Pounding the Table, the podcast, and it covers a lot of financial and investment and topics around crypto and it's amazing. It's an amazing show that you need to check out.
Amazing content.
And we're not going to say the names involved with that because it's legally we don't want to discuss. But please check out Pounding the Table podcast, and if we think you'll enjoy it because you'll gain a lot of knowledge. My co-host and I cannot thank you enough for listening, and we can't wait until the next episode to bring you more content.
Yes, sir. Thank you, co-host, for leading the discussion here, and we'll talk to everybody real soon.
Yes, and we hope you have a great day, night, weekend, white night. Did I say white night, co-host? I meant weeknight. Oh, boy, it's been a long one. All right.
We'll talk to you soon.
Take a shot for us, everyone listening out there. And if we meet you in person one day, we hope you buy a shot for us. Take care.